I'll go 6 or 7 days a week when we're 60 days out, and I will be campaigning for all of these great people that do have a difficult race, and we think we're going to bring them over the line.
All right, so you heard there President Trump vowing that he'll be campaigning hard for Republican candidates this fall. With midterms exactly 100 days away, there are new predictions that Democrats are actually favored to take the House. There could be one other major factor taking place just weeks before the midterms. President Trump tweeting out this morning, "I would be willing to shut down government if the Democrats do not give us the votes for border security, which includes the wall." If it happens, that shutdown would take place October 1st after the current spending bill expires. Joining me now is congressional reporter for the Daily Beast, Andrew Desiderio, and back with us once again, Nayyera and Adrienne Elrod. Great to have all of you with us. Nayyera, let me begin with you. Help us understand why Trump is threatening a government shutdown now.
Well, certainly it's 100 days before, effectively, his first judgment day. This is going to be an election that is a referendum on Donald Trump. Democrats are enthusiastic about turning out to vote, and Republicans really have two choices. They either are going to be running to defend Donald Trump and turn out the base, or they're going to be running to distance themselves from him. Either option as a Republican is not great, because that's not talking about your own district and your own message about what you've delivered to the public. So in that sense, message-wise, Democrats certainly have an advantage. And even now in the polling, you see that Donald Trump is losing the independents that helped get him elected. That's in polling in Arizona, in Ohio, and Florida. He's down less than 40%, which is not what a president with theoretically a winning economy. He should not be in that position right now. That's why we're seeing him tweet about things like the border wall, potential shutdowns, because he's desperately trying to figure out a way to rally the base and get himself past November elections.
I'm still trying to figure out why he's asking Democrats for funding when he promised that Mexico was going to pay for the wall on the campaign trail. Adrienne, let me ask you really quickly about this new University of Virginia there's a political analyst, Larry Sabato, who says that Democrats for the first time are actually favored to retake control of the House in the midterms. And according to the Hill report, Sabato shifted 17 House races in favor of the Democrats. Still several vulnerable Republicans, including Representative Pete Roskam, seeing their races move from likely Republican to toss up in the ratings. What is making Republicans in some of these districts so vulnerable? What do you see as their vulnerability?
Well, their vulnerability is the fact that Donald Trump is the President of the United States. Look, Democrats have 23 seats that we need to regain control of the House. Democrats are also leading 10 points on the generic ballot, which means that if a Democrat and a Republican are going head-to-head, the Democrat has automatically a 10-point advantage in a lot of these swing districts. So that's a significant attribute for Democrats going into the midterms. Look, one of the reasons why Donald Trump is making some of these crazy tweets about immigration in the NFL is because whenever he goes into a panic mode, he starts delivering red meat back to his base to try to motivate his base. That's exactly what you're seeing. You've got to also keep in mind that Republicans are going to be going home. House Republicans and Democrats will be back in their districts for a full month. There's going to be town halls. They're going to be hearing from a lot of angry constituents who feel that the President and Republicans have done nothing on health care reform. In fact, they want to sabotage the ACA. They passed a tax bill that favors the rich at the expense of the middle class. So you've got a lot of frustrated constituents, too. So, again, this is a great situation that Democrats are in going into the fall. And again, the other factor here is that Democrats do need to take back the House because we need to have some sort of subpoena power and control over balance of power between the House and the Senate.
So, Andrew, I know you spend a lot of time on Capitol Hill as a congressional reporter. You heard there President Trump talking about the fact that he's willing, at least when we're 60 days out from the elections, to be on the campaign trail 6 to 7 days a week. Is he going to be welcomed by these Republicans? Do these Republicans want to see Trump campaigning for them in their districts?
Well, the thing that's so interesting about this year is that you have so many moderate Republicans who are up for re-election in districts that Hillary Clinton won, sometimes by double digits. folks like Carlos Curbelo in Florida's southernmost district, the 26th district there, Mike Kaufman out in Colorado, Dana Rohrabacher out in California. These are folks that, I don't know if the president's help would actually benefit them in their congressional districts. So what these candidates and these incumbents in this case have to do is really distinguish their own brand from what the president is offering. And what we saw this morning from the president's tweet about the border wall funding is that, number one, he's drilling down on the base, which is something that has worked really well for him, and it's going to continue to work well for him, I think, as we get closer to the midterm elections. And he also realizes that he's probably not going to get any border wall funding after the midterm elections, because I don't think anybody in their right mind thinks that there are going to be more Republicans on Capitol Hill after these elections. If anything, there will be fewer. The big question is whether the Democrats retake control, but we're seeing how hard it is right now for him to secure that border wall funding, and he probably knows at this point he's starting to see the writing on the wall here that if he doesn't get it now before these November elections, he's probably never going to get it.
Yeah, it's only going to get harder for him to pass his agenda one way or the other. Adrienne, let me ask you about demographics here for a moment, particularly about the record number of women who are running in 2018. 309 women, we understand, have filed for U.S. House races, many of them galvanized by an anti-Trump sentiment. We know that the recent wave of protests against the family separation at the border has also impacted women voters. But let's talk about women running for office. How will this play in the midterms?
My favorite topic. Thanks for asking me about this. Look, women are fired up. They're ready to take back their country. They're angry at Trump for his policies, for his misogynistic behavior. We're especially seeing this on the Democratic side. If a woman is running against a man in a Democratic primary, statistically, the woman will win that primary. Because, again, you've got so many women voters who are just fired up, who are motivated like they've never been before. It's sort of ironic that 2016 should have been the year of the woman because Hillary Clinton was the Democratic nominee for president. But really 2017 and into 2018 is becoming the year, or the years rather, of the woman because women are so fired up and motivated like they've never been before.
Let's switch gears really quickly, and I want to get your reaction to this interesting exchange that unfolded on Twitter this morning. The president tweeting out, had a very good and interesting meeting at the White House with A.G. Sulzberger, publisher of the New York Times, spent much time talking about the vast amounts of fake news being put out by the media and how that fake news has morphed into phrase enemy of the people. Sad. As you can imagine, though, there was a response from the New York Times publisher, A.G. Sulzberger, who felt it was important to respond to the president's tweet. Here's a part of his statement on that meeting. I told the president directly that I thought that his language was not just divisive, but increasingly dangerous. I told him that although the phrase fake news is untrue and harmful, I am far more concerned about his labeling journalists the enemy of the people. I warned that his inflammatory language is contributing to a rise in threats against journalists and will lead to violence. Andrew, I want to get your thoughts on this as someone who does cover Capitol Hill. How is this likely to play out, this attack by the president against the press? Are we hearing other senior Republican leaders not side with the president on this subject matter?
Right. Senior Republicans on Capitol Hill have routinely denounced the president or at least tried to distance themselves from him when he launches these broadsides against the news media, against journalists in general. But as I mentioned before, this really just goes back to the president wanting to drill down on the base and make sure he has his base in his corner and that they show up to vote in the midterm elections. I think that's something that's really important for him. And I will note that in a follow-up tweet later this afternoon, I think he started a thread in which he talked about how sort of the news media operates, and he said it's dangerous when journalists reveal, the internal deliberations of the government. I would respond that's our job to reveal the internal deliberations of the government in order to inform the public. So I think a lot of these broadsides that the president launches against the news media are not only meant to advance his political agenda, but they're also misinformed more generally.
Yeah, and it certainly created an atmosphere of toxicity against the press and also a lot of concerns about the security and safety of journalists and news organizations across this country. Nayyera, Adrienne Elrod, Andrew Desiderio, great to have all of you with us this Sunday afternoon. Appreciate your insights.
Thank you.
All right, guys, that'll do it for me this week. Join me back here next Sunday at 5 p.m. to break down the major stories of the week. Of course, you can reach out to me on social media and be sure to